everybody. Welcome to Bound to Truth. This is Chris Lopez with John Hershey. Hope everybody's doing great today. It's been about a couple of weeks since doing the last podcast episode. Why is that? Is it because I'm lazy?
No, it's because the last one was Brown to Truth.
Oh, that's right. The last one was Brown to Truth. I misspelled it. That's actually an inside joke. If people don't know what that means, it's kind of bad. Anyways, we've been busy with a lot of projects. As y'all know, we're doing things on the side with a TV show series coming up very soon. And about that, can we talk about what's excited about what's going on?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go for it. What do we do? We're doing
an entire documentary paranormal investigation on Starvation Heights in Olalla, Washington.
Yeah, that's gonna be something really exciting. Yeah. People don't know a lot about that, and we're gonna keep that close to the chest. But it's some really great stuff, some great things we capture on top of that, and so forth. But again, but to give you context of why it's been a couple of weeks. Not to sidetrack, because I do that. I see squirrel and I see squirrel. So, anyways, before we begin, how can you reach us? You have any concerns, comments? You want to share a story? You want to take me out on a date? boundtotruth34@gmail.com. We are also on TikTok, also on X, YouTube,
Pornhub,
not Pornhub, Facebook.
I am.
No, Facebook. What else? My goodness. Now, and Apple, and of course Spotify. So please hit the subscribe button. The more you guys hit the subscribe button, the more it broadens the platform for people to stand on and have a voice. And speaking of which, I have a very special guest on today who's going to talk about his experience with UFOs and so forth. And really excited to hear a lot about his story and to him to share his thoughts. And hopefully all of you, if you have similar experiences, we can really connect and just proud of this guy that he's coming out and talking about this, being brave. Skratch Buer, right? Yes. All right, Skratch. Hey, man, thank you for being on today. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just basically let go of the reins, let you talk. I want you to really just talk about how it started and began and talk about your stories. There's going to be times we're going to interrupt to ask questions, if that's okay with you, and just try to dig a bit deep. But yeah, man, go for it. The platform's yours. Go for it, man.
Okay. Well, was born and raised in South Carolina. And there's a lot of crazy stuff that you always hear about South Carolina, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Most of the stuff is true. We are in one of the weirdest places in the world, not in the United States, but the whole world. Bizarre things happen all the time. Few people talk about it. And it's because of the stigma of if you see something, you don't say something here. Okay? I've been considered strange, outcast, and weird my whole life. Even my parents didn't think I thought I was a little bit offbeat because I didn't have the same accent as they did. They have a very deep Southern accent, and I never carried the deep Southern accent they had. So, basically, having grown up here, I grew up in a forest in the middle of 100 acres of land where there's nothing but trees and birds and bugs, right. Things that will bite you and things that will sting you. So I didn't go outside a whole lot when I was a kid. It just was after dark, you didn't do it. Because we had mountain lions, we had bear, we had other things that would just come walking across the yard.
Right.
And I'd seen things since I was a child. Okay, I'd seen strange things in the yard during the day when I was outside. Because I love to ride my motorcycle, a little dirt bike, really not a
motorcycle. Dirt bike. Okay, it's like we're both motorcycle riders.
Oh, cool.
What do you ride?
I don't ride anymore. I'm too old.
Oh gosh. What are you talking about? Your seasons. Means your experience, buddy. Don't put it down.
I'm a member of ARP. What do you think?
Go ahead, man.
I'm a lot older than I look. Okay.
Hey, you look great. You look great. When I saw you, I was like, dude, I look old. My God. All I have is my black hair. That's real, by the way. But anyways, enough about me because I make it about me. John can tell you that. But anyways, continue on.
Okay. So you go through school, you go through high school, and all these strange things happen. It was an eventful life until then. And I basically got it was in my 20s, in the very early 90s, very late 80s. Okay. I was out with some buddies, and we can do all you can do really here is just drink, smoke pot, and hang out.
Sounds like Washington.
There's not a lot to do here. There's just not a lot of activity, not a lot of things to do. If you go to a bar, it costs money to go to the bar. Yep. You go to the bar, you try to get, talk to some girls, whatever. Well, that had become like a habit of life for me. I didn't really know which direction I wanted to go, what I wanted to do with my life. I was in my early 20s, like I said. I was probably 21, 22 years old. And we would sit around and we would talk about kind of like what we're doing now. So back then, there were no cell phones. It was nothing like that.
Right.
But we sit around and we talk about metaphysical topics, the supernatural, paranormal. A few of my buddies had seen a few things with me. We had experienced a few things. It was just a fun time to be alive.
Right.
Well, one night after a long period of, like I said, every night was let's go drink beer, have a bonfire, every single night. So one night I decided to call it quits and go home because I like to draw, I like to paint, sculpt, sew, everything. Okay. And so I just took out a big pad and I was going to start a new project. And I started doing an orange sun in the middle of the pad. Back in those days, Sony Walkman was the one thing that I could put on my headphones because I was still living with my parents at the time, just to listen to some space music, very light, new agey kind of stuff.
Right, something that kind of like resonates that spirit inside, right? Kind of
right.
Stands outside the physical form, right?
Yeah. It was the name of the album is I remember everything about it. And the Stars Go With Me by John Theory.
Oh, okay. I gotta pull that up. Okay.
Yeah, check it out sometime. It's really good. Just lay back and just veg kind of music. Well, I started working on this new project because I went to my buddy's house, but we hung out for like an hour, and I said, I'm going to call it quits and going home early. For me, early was like coming home right around 11 o'clock at night. That was early for me back in those days. So there I am. I'm drawing on it. And I said, well, I'm just tired of drawing. I'm just tired of trying to do this space thing. So I just decided to lay back and just listen to the music. I reached over and turned off the light next to my bed, lay back and just closed my eyes. Now, in those days, you had phones that were kind of like a walkie-talkie. You had, it was like kind of like a cell phone, but it had a base. You couldn't go more than 20 feet away from the thing, which was located in the kitchen. And it's important to tell you about this because it's a phone. It's like a landline, where you're connected to cords and everything. I had one of those right beside my bed. But the one in the kitchen, it had a very specific ringtone to it so that you know which one's ringing.
Can I ask what year this was?
It was probably around 1989, 1990.
I keep thinking of like that movie, Lethal Weapon, where we talk about the phone and everything, where you carry the suitcase, the phone, and start, type of thing.
Car phone.
Yeah. It was not high tech, but it was high tech for the time,
right?
Kind of thing. Okay, right. It's like having a cell phone, but your cell phone tower was located in your kitchen.
Right, because it's not Wi-Fi. It's not Wi-Fi. Right. It's all connected. It's all hardcore connected, right?
Yeah. Basically, yeah. Well, I had the phone beside my bed was connected to a wire that ran to the wall, that sort of thing. It looked like an old style telephone with just a cradle and a handle.
Right.
And that thing was very loud. When it rang, you knew it. You could hear it outside. But so I laid back, and the phone in the kitchen, the one that was the walkie-talkie, it gave a half a ring. It didn't give a full ring. It gave a half of a ring.
Okay.
I thought that was kind of peculiar because it was just strange that she gave a half a ring. So I roll over to pick up the phone line, the one that's connected to the wall by wires, okay, a cord. And just as I'm reaching for it, I noticed that the phone ring stopped. The one in the kitchen, it just completely stopped halfway. As soon as that happened, I heard a low hum, a bass hum, like vibrates in your chest kind of hum. And I'm like, what the hell was that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was when a blue light came through the window right above where my phone was sitting, where my lamp was sitting, the little table I had there, the little bedside table.
Mm-hmm.
A blue light came through the window. Now, above that same, my head's behind me, the table's beside me,
Mm-hmm.
the windows above that. Right next to it was the main electrical box that come into the house. It fed the whole house through that one side of the bedroom.
Inside it, the box is inside the house.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. The phone, the electrical lines came from the outside, and then the box, all the switch box in there was right above my left shoulder.
Right.
I'm rolling to my left to answer the phone basically, and turn on the light when a low bass hum happened, and a blue light came into the bedroom through that window.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that ran through my mind is that somehow or another a storm had come up on us. Mm-hmm. Something was about to explode because we had a propane tank right outside the same bedroom window. It was
I see what you're saying. It was just like this kind of like, did it stay or just shine, or kind of like zoomed into the light?
Yeah.
Like I can see what you're saying. Like you would see with like a rocket or something like that. Like there's this, or a meteor, right? Where it's like you see this light kind of,
a bright flash of light through the window.
Yeah.
It was like that. It came through the window, and I'm like, well, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
And just as, it wasn't even a half of a second. The light just kind of came in, and that was it. Just that fast, just shot through the window. But then again, I'm also looking in that direction. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm kind of like getting ready to jump out of the bed, go grab my parents, and get the hell out of the house.
Right.
But before I had a chance to do that, the phone in the kitchen gave another half ring. Kind of like a beep instead of a beep.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was a space. The space was exactly shortened. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. This is all happening within like 45 seconds because the light came back through the window. Again, accompanied by the low bass hum. It was a low bass, like a low bass note. We can do it now with keyboards.
Right. No, I know. Oh, I'm a musician myself, so I know exactly what you're saying. So would you say that was it not only resonate with your body? Would you say was it resonating in the house per se?
Yeah.
Was it like that? And you said your parents were there.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't wake up, right? Were they asleep?
I'll get to that in a second.
Okay, gotcha. I'm already going ahead. I'm sorry, buddy.
It's the way our bedrooms were positioned in the house. Their bedroom I had a closet. They had a closet that separated our bedrooms, the bedroom walls, but they were directly across the hallway from where my bedroom was located.
Yep.
Anyway, that was when I took pause. The second bass hum and the light coming through, I took pause, and I just kind of like, what's going on here? If it was an explosion, it would have been a hole in the wall. The window would have blown out. Mm-hmm. Okay. The propane tank would have, that's what I was thinking. It was the propane tank. It's about to explode. And here I am laying underneath an electrical box.
Well, right. And especially with explosions, like, especially big ones, it happens. And then the sound afterwards,
Exactly.
Yeah. It's because the power is so intense that it beats the speed of sound.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You feel the explosion before the explosion, and then you hear the explosion. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what was running through my mind. Mm-hmm. But that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. The light came through at the same time as the low bass hum, and it was just like instantaneous. It was just like the light just shot through half of a second, and it went out. Well, the phone made another chirp in the kitchen. I'm like, third time. Okay, this is number 3. And I'm kind of like, at the time, I was kind of like, I need to figure out what's going on here.
Right.
But I didn't really have a whole lot of time to do anything like that.
Okay.
Because it was just the light come through, ring.
There's a pattern.
Yeah, there was a pattern to this, and it was My phone, which should have been ringing at the same time as the one in the kitchen, was totally silent. Never made a sound. The one in the kitchen, it had an antenna, so that's picking up a resonance from whatever electrical is going on in the air. That's what that phone would ping off of. And kind of like a walkie-talkie, but not exactly. But it would ping off of it. This went on for maybe, like I said, probably around 30 seconds. It didn't take it wasn't very long. But the light coming through, I was, you're like a rabbit. You're like a deer in the headlights. You're frozen in place. Your whole body just kind of goes numb. You can't move really. But I was able to turn my head, and I followed the light as it went into the bedroom the last 3 or 4 times, because this happened right around 9 times. I was able to follow the light as it came into the bedroom. The light didn't just enter the bedroom, okay? It came into the bedroom and scanned back on itself, like you would see on Star Trek or something. Well, the Alien movie Resurrection had a good scene where they're cutting through a door with a blue light.
Yeah.
And had something go through there and it scanned the whole room looking for life.
Right.
This was exactly the same thing this thing did.
Was it just like a light, just like a think of like a flashlight just scanning the room type of thing, or was there any pattern?
It was like a wall, like a laser beam. If you can imagine a wall of laser from the floor to the ceiling, of blue light, looking like a laser beam, going out to a point into the bedroom, probably around 8 foot, and then coming back on itself like an elbow, sweeping the room.
Interesting. So it bent.
Yes, it bent positively.
Wow.
Wow. Bent light.
That's
crazy.
That's a bent light. Wow. We because you usually can only bend light with there's mirrors, right? But there
was no mirrors.
I
had one mirror and it was to my right. It wouldn't have anything to do with that. No, they were able to bend light from the middle of space into the room.
So when this happened, I mean, what was the next thing that happened after the whole bending light thing, scanning incident? What did you do? What afterwards?
Well, what would you do? I held out, oh shit.
Oh, I would stay in bed, put the covers on my head like a kid.
Well, yeah, I held out, oh shit, Dad, get your ass in here now.
Yeah.
We didn't swear in my house. We were very, very, very religious. Okay. I didn't swear in front of my parents. I didn't do any of that. I didn't smoke in front of them, even though I smoked.
Yeah.
I didn't drink in front of them. Never been drunk in front of them. Okay.
Oh, I have.
Sort of thing.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, I mean, it was a Dad, get your ass in here right now kind of moment. I got out of bed and I ran to the door and I looked back into the light coming through the window. I'm freaking out, as anybody would freak out. You've got a loud bass hum, a light coming through your window. Somebody get in here now. My mother came to the door instead of my father. My father was apparently dead asleep through all this. But I asked her, did you see anything weird? Did you hear anything? She said, no, but I did hear the phone ringing in the kitchen, the one I've been telling you about earlier. I heard that, and I saw a light coming from your bedroom. I'm like, well, great. You okay? Nobody saw this but me. I said, Dad come to the door. He's all, waking up, and I'm like, where's the shotgun? I'm going to go outside. Okay.
Sounds like my boy John.
Oh yeah.
That sounds like my boy John. Yeah.
Let's get the shotgun and go outside and check this out. Right?
Yeah. Kill it.
He's gonna be like, what is it? Fighting or fucking your ass is mine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're either fighting or fucking, either way that ass is mine.
Anyways, go ahead, Ben.
Well, hindsight's 2020. That would have been an absolute one thing I wouldn't have been a stupid thing for me to do. That would have been absolutely stupid for me to do. If these things could travel interdimensionally from millions light years away, whatever, and they were able to take a light, shine it through my window, scan my room looking for life. Imagine what else they can do. They can do, I could be vaporized like that.
Yeah.
There's no weapon on the planet. There's no weapon that we possess. Not even a nuclear bomb, really. Okay.
Well, and you know what? Honestly, too, Skratch, I would say and I'm stretching here, I always think about our government, especially Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works, Boeing, all those people. We have no, and again, I'm not saying it was the government, but who knows what we have technology wise.
I
But
know.
yeah,
I get it.
that's
I mean,
that's a scary.
Well, I mean, we got
citizens.
great technology, but we don't have bending light technology.
So
No.
so your dad got the shotgun. Did he get the shotgun? Did he go outside? What was your what's
Well, they're trying to calm me down. They're like, calm down, calm down. They didn't know if I was high, drunk, on some kind of acid or something like that. And I'm like, I assure you.
typical
I
80s
thought,
parents, man.
Yeah.
Typical 80s parents.
well, that was, they knew that something that shook me.
Mhm.
It shook me to the core. All right. Like I
Mhm.
said, a lot of other weird shits happened before this ever came about. It's just up until that point. We've seen pretty lights in the sky, multiple colored lights, ships, if you will.
Mhm.
We've seen them all around the house all the time. My mother saw one when she was a 17-year-old and living at my grandmother's house
Right.
down the road from where I lived. Okay, because this land was in our family for years,
That's all. Wow, that's cool.
for generations.
Wow.
So she saw something when she was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, and there'd been some evidence around. We call it the old home place. It's where my grandparents lived. We didn't live there. We lived up the road from there. But I had an aunt and uncle who moved into that house, and they saw some impressions in the backyard where something had landed that apparently was very heavy and scorched and burnt the grass in the backyard back there. That wasn't, maybe that might have been 4 or 5 years before I had this experience. So anyway, they calmed me down, more or less, said, go back to sleep.
Right.
Who can sleep? I want to go check this out. No, you're not going outside.
Right. You're excited. You're full of adrenaline. What the hell's going on?
All right.
Yeah.
And I said, well, the only way I'm going to go to sleep is if I sleep in your bedroom on the floor with a shotgun by my head.
Screw that. I'm sleeping with my parents. I don't care how old I am.
Cool.
But I'm from California. I'm not from Carolina. So there you go. That tells
Yeah,
you.
I mean, for me, that would have been even worse than going out there and seeing and confronting whatever it is and saying, "Come on,
Right.
get." You know,
Right.
all right, I'd rather have done that than sleeping in the bed with my parents.
So
You know?
after you guys got gathered in your room and everything, what's going on, kind of like calm down, everything like that. Did any of you eventually go outside? Anything else that happened in that first experience? Yeah, debrief.
Well, it shook me to my core.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the next thing I wanted to do was go tell my buddies about it the next day, whatever. I didn't really, you know, I mean, it was just life. Like I said, you don't really talk about these things here. You get a stigma attached to you. You're weird. You're crazy. You need medication. You need therapy. All kinds of negative stuff in those days. Okay.
Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you this, Skratch. It's weird when there is a narrative that is placed in society where it's like you could talk about these things, these things, these things, but when it comes to something we don't understand, you're just fucking weird. You're just crazy. You're
I was
just
way because I talked about things that were just always off the wall.
right.
You know, the closest thing we had to anything about this kind of stuff, we didn't have MUFON in that time. Okay, there was MUFON, but you had to go to the library and check out who to talk to at MUFON.
Oh well, you're talking about pulling up ads and all that stuff, right?
And telling them,
Yeah.
where do you report your story? You don't call it where I lived. You didn't call the sheriff. You call the sheriff, and they're going to haul you off to some kind of a hospital where you need to be supervised.
So let me ask you this. So after that experience, what else happened that night, or just kind of calmed down afterwards?
After that night, okay, strange, like I said, strange things were always happening around that part of the area where I grew up. All kinds of weird shit. But it might have been about a week and a half, 2 weeks later.
Yep.
My parents went walking up the road. We lived off a mile. It was about a mile from the main road down a gravel road to where we lived.
Mm-hmm.
So they love to take walks up this. It's a nature hike, essentially, on a gravel road. They came across the carcass of a deer, an adult deer.
Okay.
Okay. They had little programs on television that would talk about the cattle mutilations out west. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you kind of got a sense for that what they were taking were the eyes, the tongue, lips,
Yep.
the anus,
Right.
the sex parts. Okay. Well, they told me that something had done exactly that to a deer, not to a cow, but to a deer.
Which is not surprising. I mean, because and I say that because when we talk about cattle mutilations and Linda Moulton Howe, I'm not sure if you know who she is. She's a
I do
great,
know.
yeah,
Once
amazing.
you go through what I went through,
Yeah.
you keep your eye on the horizon. You check out everything you can find.
And with mutilations that people understand, it's not people keep focus. Here's the thing: people keep focusing. It's just on cattle. Why just cattle? Well, it's on cattle because it's in your property. We don't
Yeah.
know what's going on around the woods, like
No.
here, right?
It could be a deer, it could be a bear. I mean, it could be anything.
So when
large.
that happened, when they came across it, what did they say? What, I mean, were they freaked? Were they confused? What was going on?
Well, it was like I said, it was around a week or two after this.
Mhm.
They said we found a deer that had been mutilated.
Okay.
And they said very distinctly, this was done like with a scalpel. That's how precise the cuts were. It wasn't. They were very distinct about it. They had talked about it before they decided to tell me.
Right.
Okay. I think they were kind of worried about telling me because they were trying to prove in some way that they were right about not letting me go outside with a shotgun.
Well, you just had that incident a few nights ago. There's being parents protecting you, right? They're trying to yeah.
We tell them about this? Should we not tell them about this? They felt that they had to tell me about it because it was a part of like what we just talked about.
Right.
It was just a very strange experience.
So
now,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
If you have a question, please step in.
Well, I was going to say too is this property has been in your family for generations, which I would say rare for us in the West Side, and I say rare because it's more newly discovered compared to the East Coast, right? It's been there for generations when it got colonized and everything like that. So, have you heard any stories besides that experience your parents had walking and seeing that deer? Was there anything similar to those experiences with generation family members?
If there was,
Yeah.
they didn't talk about it.
Okay.
This is kind of how hush hush this whole thing is.
Right.
You don't talk about these things. We do not talk about these things.
Mhm.
You see something, you don't say anything. You keep it quiet. Keep it to yourself. Keep it in the family.
So after that experience that your folks talked about, what else happened next? Anything else afterwards? What's the next episode for you?
Well, there have been a lot of other things. I mean, like a lot of other things. It wasn't like the moment of being baptized. For me, it kind of was because it's like this is the weirdest thing I'd ever experienced in my life.
Right.
Up until that point that I could actually point at and say this is legitimately crazy. Okay.
Right.
I had time slips when I was a child.
Just gonna ask that.
I saw places that, okay, let's shift back just a little bit. I didn't really want to bring this up because we're just talking about UFOs today.
Right.
Talking about time slips is a totally different thing than seeing a UFO.
Well, no, actually, I don't think it is. And when we talk about time slips, yes, it could be paranormal. We heard about David Pilates. I don't know if you know who that is, the guy from Missing 411. You should pull him up. He's interesting about the woods and people missing and time slipping. But there's people who have been abducted having missing time.
That's different. That's totally different.
Okay.
I'm going to go there, and I'm going to go there in a minute.
Go for it.
About the missing time in just a few minutes.
Go for it.
The time slip. Well, it happened pretty much. This is a different story. When I was younger, much younger, I might have been around 10, 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I'd ride my bicycle up the long gravel road. Like I said, we're a mile off the main highway, and it's a gravel road. Great place to ride a bicycle. Okay.
Right.
A 10-speed, but just a plain, simple bicycle.
Right.
Well, I'd ridden up to the top of the road and came back, and it took about 10 minutes for me to ride to the end of the road and try and come home. Right where our property line began for where we lived, it was on a hill. The house was down below.
Right.
I stopped at the top of the hill because I saw a path going off to the down and far behind the house.
Right.
I've been there, living there for 10, 11 years. I'm like, how did I not ever see this path going down behind the house?
Right.
It was a clay path. It was a footpath.
Mm-hmm.
I've been out in the woods and in the country and other places where I've seen footpaths before. Just humans just walking across the same earth. It just creates a narrow little. You can tell that's where people walk.
Right.
I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I'm going to ride down that on my bicycle. Well, just as I'm about to turn my bicycle to go down this path, my mother comes out on the front porch and yells at me and tells me it's time for lunch. Come on, it's time for you to eat.
Right.
I looked at her and I pointed at it, and she said, "Come on." She's an impatient kind of lady. She's very impatient most of the time, but she said, "Come on and eat."
Yep.
So I went down there and we're eating sandwiches, and I said, "Ma, do you remember a path up there on top of the hill?"
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Yeah, when we were kids, we had sharecroppers who used to farm with your grandfather and your great uncles. That would be the path that they would take to go down to the lake."
Right.
Because the lake was pretty good. It's about 2 miles to the lake, but that's where they would go. And I said, "Well, I'm going to take a little ride down that path."
Uh-huh.
And she said, "Well, it's probably overgrown. In fact, I'm sure it's overgrown now."
Right.
I go back up there, and yeah, there were trees in the middle of this path. I mean, like full blown, the trees had been there for 30, 40 years.
Right.
Huge trees where the path had been. And I looked really hard, and I couldn't see anything that even indicated there was ever a path there.
Mm.
All right. Fast forward about a year. I was probably around 12 years old.
Mm.
And I had a second time slip in a place that's not too far. In fact, it would have probably been right in the line of the path that I told you about just now.
Right.
My father had built me a tree house in the backyard, and it was a good distance from the house. And I went down there just to check it out. I hadn't been down there in quite some time. The tree house was probably, I'm ready, if I'd have stepped up onto it, I'd have fell with it. It would have probably just shattered all the pieces.
Right.
I look down and I see a stone. I turn the stone over and there's a scorpion. I put the rock back because, like I told you when we first started, there's things in the woods that will bite, sting, and they fly.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of them do all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sting, bite, and fly. Yeah. So I put the rock down and looked up. And when I looked up, I saw something I did not ever anticipate seeing.
Hmm.
It was a teepee, a small little, strange little looking teepee type of a hut. I said, "That's unusual. I think I would have noticed that by now." So I walked toward it, maybe about 30, 40 feet, I guess. And I walked into the area, and it was like someone had decided to live there as a Native American. There were some sticks, very crudely, just sticks with like that, and it had a stick in the middle of it, and it had like some kind of meat hanging off of it above a smoldering fire. The fire wasn't a fire. If it was a fire, I'd have been concerned because, like I said, we lived in the middle of a forest.
Right. You don't need a fire. You don't need a fire going around your house. Yeah.
You don't really need a fire out there anywhere like that. But I could see it was smoking meat, and I saw some animal furs kind of laid up inside this very primitive dwelling. It wasn't really a teepee like you think out in the Midwest. Okay, it was just a very rudimentary shelter.
Hold on before you finish. Time slip. Are you saying you think you slipped in somewhere in the past?
Yes, I know I did. I couldn't have seen that kind of thing. There wasn't enough information in my world, in my lifetime at that time to even imagine something like that happening.
Well, you know what? Can I pause for a second? There's a guy we're going to be going next year in Minnesota that he has a property of 40 acres. They talked about missing time, but when they ran across a teepee.
Yeah, like, and the way he described it wasn't one of it was so old and intricate that it couldn't have possibly been something new that somebody made. It was like it appeared in an area which from the research that I did on it was a very heavily trafficked area for the Native Americans at that time, and it was like, this is his property. scoured every inch of it through his whole lifetime of being there, and it's like this had never been there, and it was almost like this portal, so to speak, was opened up, and then all of a sudden it was like this article, this item was brought back from
Absolutely.
yeah
Exactly.
past,
That's
and
exactly what it is. That's exactly what this was.
Fuck.
there's a movie that's actually that I was or a TV series that I was watching that explains something about that too. It was like there was this portal that would just kind of dump you off anywhere.
It was
in,
the whole, like the hole
yeah,
with Josh Brolin.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
seen the
yeah,
whole
yeah, yeah.
series.
And there was very
Yeah,
similar
very
situation.
similar,
Like
but it was a
it
hole.
opened up, and then all of a sudden, like there was buffalo on their land, and
Yeah.
in areas that buffalo haven't been for
Yeah.
3-4 centuries, and then there that all of a sudden all these buffaloes are there, and then this guy ends up going through it and popping out like right in the middle of a Native American hunting party that are
Yeah.
hunting these buffaloes, and
Yeah.
some of them crossed over to the present, and then he was
Interesting.
sent back to the
Interesting.
past.
Yeah, it's interesting. But sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but yeah, that's something like the
It's a
show.
concept that's talked about.
Well, yeah, well, obviously, I think it inspired TV shows because
Oh yeah,
like that,
naturally.
for sure. Yeah, but this guy Randy had that as well in his property, and he's got a lot of more Bigfoot things going on that's happening. But but I want to share that with you to kind of like there's a connection.
There's an interdimensional connection that's there.
There is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Now I'm like, 11, 12 years old, and I see this, and I'm looking around, and I want to, having seen the trail earlier up the dirt road that we lived off of, gravel road rather. I learned to basically just turn on the recording mechanism in my brain. This is a memory you want to keep, detail as much as you can think of detailing. When I looked around, I noticed that everything had changed colors, like we're technicolor the way we see things right now, the way I'm looking at you, the way you look at me, look at each other. Everything had gone to a variance of grays and slight purple, lavender colors. All the colors were different. They weren't normal colors like what we look at each other now.
Okay.
The colors were different. It was purples, hues of lavender, and gray and black.
It sounds like an interdimensional TV.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost like the concept of moving yourself into another dimension. I mean, if we're gonna go off of the multiverse theory, of it's a similar world, but there will be differences, and you being from another realm, it's gonna look weird to you. It's gonna like everything's gonna be weird because everything looks normal to those people in that dimension, but it's like, giving a colorblind person the ability to see color, or vice versa. It's just removing that, and who knows what they have. Like
and
their world could look completely different. They could have different spectrums of light, so they could even be able to see. And so, or like maybe they've developed to filter those spectrums out. So then you're put in this area that has a completely different environment. So you're going to be washed out with, like you say, this purple hue.
And you know what? To add to that too is John made a good point. That could be not just a time slip, but it also could be maybe a multi-dimensional universe where we weren't here.
Yeah, well, the theory of the multiverse is it's everything at all times, just a different time. So the past is happening now as well as the future is happening now. Type of theory.
Yeah, and type of thing. But anyways, but continue on. But that's the idea of what possibly what you're seeing, right? We have no idea. But
right. That's exactly this. Yeah. This was so real. I could have reached out and took a piece of meat off of the man or woman that was basically not really cooking the meat, but preserving the meat by drying meat. That's how you preserve meat for later use.
Did you see anybody? Did you have experience? Okay.
No, I didn't see anybody. I just saw evidence that there's somebody there. They had a 3-foot stack of pelts off to the side of the shelter of various kinds of animal skins: raccoon, possum, deer. Okay, right. And it's a whole stack of pelts there. I basically, being 12 years old, I'm like, I need to. Something's going on here. Something's not right. So I walked away from it and started to walk back toward my home. I took about, 7 or 8 steps. I turned and looked, and it's still there. Okay. I'm like, I'm not just seeing things and not imagining things. It's still there. I could walk back to it and grab a piece, like I said, a piece of steak or whatever they were, animal, deer, I'm imagining, deer.
Right.
I could have easily have done that and actually ate it. But I said, no, I'm not, I don't know. I was kind of a clean freak, a germaphobe, if you will, in those days. So I'm like, I'm not going to put something in my mouth where I don't know who's touched it, where it's been,
Right,
whatever.
right.
I'm like Chris.
Yeah, me, I'm dirty.
Yeah,
Anyways,
he
go
just
ahead.
anything in his mouth.
That's right. I'll see nachos under bleachers. I'll eat it. It's free.
Oh, good God.
I've done it. Anyways, go ahead.
But I'm walking to my house. I can clearly see my house from where I'm standing. Like I said, I turn around and look, and it's still there. And so I just kept walking. I'm looking at the ground. I'm like trying to think, what do I do? Do I tell my parents about this? Do I keep it to myself?
Right.
And as I'm walking along, I find an arrowhead. All right. It was like it was right in my path, like somebody put it there. An arrowhead. I must have walked that little area because I had a tree house down there. I played there as a kid. I never saw any of this. Never saw anything like that. And I find an arrowhead.
An arrowhead's not an easy find either.
Yeah.
And it's not. Even though where we lived, there was a tribe there for many years before.
Was it an obsidian one? Was it stone? Was it what? Can you explain that a little bit deeper for me? I'm just trying to get a picture in my mind.
Quartz.
Quartz. Ooh.
We had a well drilled right close to where the treehouse was put. A little block building that had a well there because we were going to use well water. And the man said that we had so much of a, what do you call it? They use it in computers. It's like a real thin, paper thin crystal. The whole area is just loaded with crystals, but it's formica. That's what they call it. Like formica. It's like a very thin stuff. They use it in all kinds of devices.
It's one of the only like passive conducive natural materials that we have, and that's why it's such a good conduit in computers.
Well, same as like, well, also I'm thinking too, because of the areas is what if the metals, like we talked about like iron with demons, right? Yeah. What if the metals and
they store energy?
Yeah, they store energy.
Like limestone.
Yeah. It's a conduit,
It is a conduit.
Yeah.
Well, the whole area there, and that whole little area is just loaded with this stuff. If you know where Clemson University is, we were like 8 minutes drive time to Clemson University. So it's in that part of the state. It's not toward the coast, it's toward the mountainous side of the state.
Right.
So I see that. I pick up the arrowhead and I said, well, I'm not losing my mind. I know what I just saw. This confirms everything that I just seen.
Right.
I mean, it took the first time I heard about time slips outside of my experiences were just maybe 5 or 6 years ago, where it came up on one of the YouTube channels I watch. A couple of fellows took pictures of someplace out in France, and they said that building was not there when we took the picture. In fact, it had been blown up, but they had pictures that they could compare to another place, another time when the picture was taken.
Yeah.
So that wasn't really what I was going to talk about now, but it's just.
But you're giving an example what it is. So after that experience, did you tell your folks about what happened? I mean, you got this arrowhead, or what was that?
I told my mother, okay, and my father was a very he was I don't know how to put it. He knew that a whole lot of weird things had been going on in my life. He had seen enough strange shit with us. He was brutal. Is a good way to say it. Not to me, not to my mother, but he was just a very a brutal man. Okay.
Gotcha.
He was just very, very, very straightforward. No kidding. Hardly ever laughed. If he laughed, it was about something that he would find amusing.
Right.
That wouldn't be amusing to most people. Okay.
So we're talking about these potential UFOs. We're talking about time slips, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, that was kind of led into where they found the deer that had been mutilated.
Yeah.
It had its eyes cut out, its different parts cut out. They left all the meat, so it wasn't a hunter. we had a problem with hunters coming on our land and trying to kill
Well, you have
deer.
100 acres. Yeah, right now. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And my father was strictly against having anybody kill a deer or
Yeah.
any animal on our property. Basically, a couple of experiences that we had that were just me and him together had that just weren't pleasant. I think it taught him a lesson more so than it taught me. I never wanted to be a hunter. I never wanted to be a fisherman. Nothing like that. That was just not my forte. I didn't want to do it because I'd seen some cruel stuff that he had done to animals that wasn't very cool.
Right. No, totally understand. Totally understandable. And so my mind goes back to, I think of like, actually, what were we going to say?
I was gonna say I'm starting after, we've interviewed several people with not exactly similar stories, but kind of on the same path that you have. Each one has been unique, but I'm starting to notice a pattern for like a geographical area and something like what you mentioned that you have Formica that's in the area and quartz and like Randy, he's on where rivers, two separate rivers are meeting, combining into one larger one, and I'm noticing a huge geographical pattern that things are a lot of extraterrestrial portal things are stemming from these areas like where you live. A lot of just high energy, high zoned planes. And I'm wondering if it's I wouldn't say it's a coincidence because naturally it's just like what do we do? Do we put solar panels, excuse me, I got the hiccups, inside the rainforest? No. We put them out in an area where they're going to be able to gather the most sunlight and produce the most energy. And it's the same thing. I wonder if, these entities and these things that are happening they're not just random, but they're more like this is a high energy zone. So we perform our experiments, or it could have been things that have like what we happen, like where we have our nuclear waste zones. Like maybe these are things that happened way back in the past and they were working or functioning in these areas, and now there's a lot of residual energy left over, or even potential technology, or even just like stored energy in these elements that are left out. And
Right.
it sounds like you got a hot spot area there too.
Yeah.
It's
And
like
yeah,
several other people, like when Randy was talking about, sounds like his property
it sounds
is just a
similar.
massive
It sounds,
hotspot, and yours sounds like it's the same thing too.
and it sounds similar because the reason why it sounds similar is because we go back to the whole Skinwalker Ranch. I'm sure you heard about Skinwalker, right? So
Foreskin Ranch.
yes,
Right.
yeah. So Skinwalker has got a lot of both paranormal, very native lore things going on, but also UFO related, right?
Oh, yeah.
And with Randy, he's got something similar. We haven't got to the UFO part yet, but he's
I think we're on the right path there.
we're on the right path because there's something that he calls Bigfoot, but I think there's something more where we saw some photos that were like looking like Wendigo. And when I'm hearing your story, it's like it sounds the same damn thing, like Skinwalker Ranch. You got not just the paranormal and
Yeah.
some cross-dimensional thing. Now when it comes to these UFOs, I know people are like, well, what's the guy to connect with but Bigfoot and all stuff? Well, how do we know? How do we not know they're not interdimensional the same way?
Or even like something like a Bigfoot or things like that aren't just a lesser version of their species. Like, because what do we do when we have, a bear with a broken leg or a dolphin that can't swim well? Is we capture it and we put it somewhere
Mhm.
and we leave it
Right.
there. So it's very possible that, and I've thought this for a long time, that it's, being that Earth is obviously a very habitable space and we have a lot of resources here, it's very possible that these interdimensional beings take their lesser or their unwanted or their animals that they don't like and maybe just dump them off here.
Well, you know what? It could be. You know what too? Scratch is that talk about scanning your place. It could not
Right.
just be scanning for you. It could be just scanning for the habitat, like what John was saying, for
Resources.
resources, right? We have no clue. Um,
Well, yeah, I haven't really finished the
sorry,
rest of the
sorry,
story.
sorry. I apologize, jumping the gun, but go ahead.
No, a lot of people think it is the place. A lot of people think it's the area where you are.
Right.
In my life, that's not been the case at all. It's
Okay.
been, it's been, it was looking for me.
Well,
It wasn't looking for my mom. It wasn't
yeah,
for my dad.
which we see that too.
Mhm.
It was looking for me. And that's because there's a lot here I haven't even this is like one little sliver out of a mountain.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely have to make this a two-parter too.
Yeah, 2 or 3 parter for sure. Absolutely. So we
I think you might want to.
yeah.
I
So
don't know how much time you're
no. Well, we go on for about an hour and so forth. We're about 56 minutes into it, but here's the thing is here's my question with you, because I really want to jump back to the UFO thing that happened in the room. Have you seen any beings? Have you talked? Have you had any experience with any entities? Supposedly from yeah, you have.
Oh yeah. Not that night. Not that night. Okay.
Right.
Not that night at all. I mean, it was me sleeping with a shotgun by my head. Okay. That night, and that kind of like I said, that happened. They found the deer.
Yep.
Life goes on. I have work to go to. They have their stuff going on.
Right.
Life continued. I was a young man, and I was looking for a way to get away, and I moved to Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
For a couple of years.
All right.
Wanted to get into the music business, and wanted to make a success. I mean, in the business side of it, not as a musician, but as this time as someone in the business part of it. Okay. And I almost achieved my goal.
Dude, Randy's a musician. Go ahead.
But I almost achieved my goal, but it wasn't paying the bills.
Well, trust me, I know. I'm a drummer.
It doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah.
It doesn't pay the bills. So I had to get a different type of job. And so moving from place to place when I was in Atlanta, I had a few experiences out there that were just really, really, really weird. It wasn't like any kind of aliens or anything like that. It was more spirits type of thing. I mean, it was just a strange time in life. And we're fast forwarding now 3 or 4 years after the UFO incident that time. But I met a woman. I moved to Atlanta with her, and we had a few other experiences around the home that we eventually bought. I had cancer, and so I had to move back from Atlanta, Georgia, back to South Carolina. And I moved in with my parents, but I'd have to move back to the state because my mother was sick, I was sick. All 3 of us had cancer at the same time. My mother and father had to have colon surgery on the same day.
Wow.
And I'm living in Atlanta, so I had to come over to South Carolina to where my mother was having her surgery, and then I had to go to the lower part of the state where my father was having surgery the same day. It wasn't, I don't guess it was around maybe 6 months later, and I'm having surgery for cancer. Okay. It was like all 3 of us had something that went right across the middle part of their body.
Are these all these people that, sorry to interrupt, are these all people that were in the house that day that the scan happened?
Yes.
Interesting. So, and my brain, I'm a biomedical engineer also, so my brain goes to the biological science of this. I wonder if that scanning laser was some form of like excessively high radiation or something like that affected you guys. That's where I go to this, I like to lean more towards the science part of it, especially when something like this, because that's very intriguing, especially because it happened so close together. And you say that it was pretty like regional to like your lower diaphragm area.
Yeah.
For all of you.
Yes. And for me it was testicular cancer. For them it was colon cancer.
Yeah.
And when I was a child, I was sleeping like y'all said earlier, I slept in the middle of them when I was a kid. So that's where I get the idea that this was the first time these guys, this particular species, had been to our home or been inside of our home. Because when I was younger, my father had told me frequently that he would wake up in the middle of the night, he would hear something, and he would hear what sounded like 2 children, 3 foot tall, speaking from the hallway down to our bedrooms. And I said, well, what did they say? And he said, it sounded like some kind of a whoosh sound from the hallway. Like it just sucked him right up through the roof of the house. And he told me this for, I don't know, at least 10 years before I had the blue light experience. He told me this for a long time. Because like I said, he wasn't the kind of guy that joked around. He didn't make up things or nothing like that. He never did. And then, like I told you, there was a lot of other weird stuff that happened before the blue light ever happened. It's just up until that point, that was the one thing that I said, this is really proof of something.
Well,
okay. Like
yeah.
I said, we'd seen pretty lights in the sky, but that just kind of just took it that night, took it to a totally different level.
So
now, that might have been the first time I saw something that traumatic happen to me. Okay. But other things happened later on. And in my lifetime since then, I've seen probably 7 or 8 other ships in the distance. 2 of them were no doubt our military involved. There was no doubt in my mind, because both of those times, the 2 times that I saw ships that were being escorted by the fighter jets, the F-16s. One time was in a place called Destin, Florida. Y'all ever heard of that place? Destin, Florida?
No, but I know there's bases in Florida where they
it was a vacation spot for.
Wow.
But there was a
hold on.
You're breaking up, bud.
We're losing you. Hold on. Give it a little time. And the government's attacking us again.
On the beach. And it's such a desolate beach. Nice little silver being followed by 16 fighter pilot.
Hold on this, Skratch.
If you can hear us, hold on a second. We're losing you. You're breaking up real bad.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
There you go. Okay.
Can
you repeat that? Yeah, we call that government interference.
Yeah, a lot of times once we start getting, it's weird.
Yeah.
Every time we talk to somebody with a story like yours, for some reason, it's not like Chris has bad internet and I don't either, but it's weird. It's like right once we start getting to some pivotal point, we start talking about it, everything gets weird.
So can you repeat that really quick?
Yeah,
What you're
please.
saying? Go for it.
We sit and watch.
We're losing. You back? Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, man. Go for it.
It's okay. It's like you said.
I'm telling you, it happens every time. I'm telling you right now. Every time we get the government.
I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah.
We're chatting along for a good hour.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I
going
think
on. And
I think that we gathered a lot of information from you, and I'm definitely, if you're down for it, want to do another one and continue this story, because it sounds like you have a lot of, and I want to make sure that we're able to get all the information you want to share out, and we can only do that so much in each podcast. But I really like your story so far, and I'm very intrigued, and I can't wait to hear more. Like,
there's a lot more.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it sounds like
a lot.
we're going to be having you back on.
So let's do that. Let's do this. I almost called him Randy. Gosh, sorry, Skratch. Let's do this, man. We're gonna put a pause on it because John and I are gonna process information what you share with us. Can we do it another one from about the same time a week from today? Are you good for that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it a part. We're gonna make this one a part one. Oh, sorry. Hold on one second. We're gonna make this a part 1 series because we want to give you justice about your story, because you have a lot that you're sharing that I want to make sure that we capture every moment of it and give you the platform you deserve.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So with that being said,
been wonderful talking to you.
Yeah, it's gonna be wonderful talking to you. Before you get off, I'll debrief really quick afterwards with you. Everybody, I want you to welcome Skratch. This is a part 1 series. Wasn't planned, but this guy's got stories like nobody's business, which is awesome. Which we love it, and we're hoping to spark a lot of interest with you to even reach out to us and even have questions for him, maybe, and hopefully Skratch will have some questions for you from the audience. Excuse me. How can you reach us again? boundtotruth34@gmail.com. Again on Spotify, Apple, X,
Pornhub,
YouTube, not Pornhub, And of course, oh yeah, Buzzsprouts. I forgot to mention Buzzsprouts.
Yep.
And then also on
And
TikTok as well.
Chris is on Grinder too.
I'm not on Grinder. Yeah. So everybody have a great night. God bless. And we're gonna continue part 2 a week from today. Thank you very much.